Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Vince Rocco in New York, so let's get right to what everyone is talking about. Today on the show, in New York City real estate, success often comes down to more than listings and numbers. It's about telling a compelling story. Every property, every client, and every agent has a narrative, and the way you share it can shape perception and open doors. Buyers and sellers connect with authenticity, whether it's the story of a home's history, a neighborhood's transformation, or your own journey as an expert in this city. But beyond telling the story, ask yourself, are you making your recognition work for you? Industry accolades, press mentions, or community involvement only matter if you weave them into your narrative in a way that builds trust and reinforces credibility. In a crowded market like here in New York City, recognition isn't just a badge, it's a tool. And the way you leverage it can determine whether people see you as just another broker or as the trusted storyteller who turns transactions into experiences. And on set with me today are Matt Leone, Chief Marketing Officer here at Brown Harris Stevens, Ashley Brennan, Senior Vice President of Communications, also here at Brown Harris Stevens, and Mikey Pozarik Studios, and they join me now to discuss. But first, let me welcome my listeners and viewers from across the United States and all around the globe. This is Talking New York Real Estate, so let's go behind the headlines and into real estate. This is the state of our industry.
Hi, it's Stephen Bailey from Roadway Moving and Storage. Listening to Vince Rocco, you know the right partner makes all the difference. At Roadway, we deliver an experience your clients will love. For specialized services and white glove care, choose Roadway. Want to learn more? Email me at steven@roadwaymoving.com or visit roadwaymoving.com.
I'm Brian Scott Cohen, one of the top loan originators in the country and the #1 mortgage originator at Guaranteed Rate Infinity. Guaranteed Rate Infinity arguably has the most advanced tech in the industry. Our completely digital loan process makes it easy and efficient for homeowners, from a 15-minute pre-approval to the digital application and through closing. My team and I would love to help you get into the home of your dreams.
Okay, everybody, we are back. Listen, I want to make a little programming note here. We are starting today season 11 of Talking New York Real Estate. I get choked up. I cannot believe it's been 11 years. 2014, we started this program when no one really knew, you've heard me say this before, what a podcast was. And now, thanks to the guy sitting right next to me over here, we now do YouTube as well. So we have grown, we have evolved, we are getting, I believe, better. And, you know, look, the future is the future, but I'm excited. We're back September of 2025 for season 11. Enjoy, and let's get moving. Matt, I want to start with you first because today we're going to talk about what it's like to tell a story in real estate, okay, from an agent's perspective, from a property perspective, as we were talking off camera a little while ago. And just for, you know, the industry in general, we have a lot of competition out there. There are a lot of agents in this town. But we like to think that we can stand out and be different. And the way I think we stand out and be different is when we tell a story about what our listing is, who we are as people, what our own personal branding is, because I think that's just as important. But here in real estate, what does it mean for you as our chief executive here in marketing when an agent needs to tell a story? How do they tell that story? And how do they bring themselves into that story? Because I believe that's just as important as the property or the listing itself.
Well, I mean, first, I want to congratulate you on season 11 and being the foundation of the More Network. I mean, we wouldn't have this if it wasn't for you because you brought us like actual credibility. So thank you for that. But in terms of storytelling, I do want to sort of touch on the fact that when you're talking about an agent or when you're talking about a listing, it's all about finding a way to get to be one of one, which means you're in a city of 16,000 agents. They have a lot of options out there to choose from. There are a lot of homes available of inventory, homes to choose from. How do you connect emotionally to that person and to that home? If you talk to someone who owns a home, they always talk with such pride. They're like, you know, I did this renovation, or I saw this vision, and they speak so proudly of it like it's their child. They will look at something in an emotional way and connect with it if you can tell that story to them. So you already know that you got to connect with them on an emotional level to get them to buy, and you also know that you have to connect with them on an emotional level to choose them 6 months you're going to probably have to work with that agent. You're going to want to know that they are the one with the sales record. They are the one that you can get along with for 6 months. So how do you tell that story in an engaging fashion in a short one, because you have a 8-second attention span to get to them. So how do you tell them that story that's going to be like, all right, separate yourself from the noise? And that's where the artists come in. That's where the video creators, that's what my team comes in. That's where Ashley, where she has to actually pitch a story to get it for someone to tell it in the best possible way. That's how our art form comes in, because we are, and I tell this to my staff and I tell this to agents, we are storytellers. And it's great that your season 11 started with this topic, because that's what we are. We tell stories.
It's so important, but I think sometimes also there's a balance that has to happen between the actual storytelling and the actual facts about the property. As you said before, a seller's going to be very exuberant about, this paint cost me a lot of money and this renovation cost this and and I changed the entire design. So we have to figure out a way to bring out those very important facts, but also balance that story where not only the seller is going to appreciate it, but the buyer is going to, because our audience out there when we do list is the buyer, right? And so we've got to make sure that the buyer sees in photographs and in video something that's compelling that wants them to say, hey, Vince or whatever other agent, I want to come and make an appointment to see that property. Ashley, from your perspective in looking at a lot of stuff that all the agents here do, how do you kind of advise agents to balance those facts and then balance, the seller themselves, including everybody into that? And we'll ask Mikey about the video in a minute, but it's important when you're telling a story to see something.
Yes. The facts are crucial for what I do, because I deal with journalists and they are just rooted in fact, we would hope. I need standard nuts and bolts, bedroom count, square footage, all the kind of boring nitty gritty stuff that agents deal with day to day. But every home also has to have, that's pitchable, has to have a hook. There has to be some meat there. And it might be different for a journalist, what they find interesting versus what a buyer might find interesting. So a journalist is going to want to know provenance, history. Did someone famous live there? Did someone famous sleep there? Did someone famous live down the street? Like little nuggets of something that will catch their attention, that matters. And it might be different than what the seller wants to project out there. A seller might say, well, I love my home. It's beautiful. I've loved it for 50 years. And that's their story. But that might not be enough to get a journalist's attention.
It's not a compelling reason
Correct.
To go out to market and say, hey, come and look at my property or come and buy my property because I've lived here for 50 years. And after all, I've raised my family and I've done this and I've done that. Okay, great. But
correct. So we have to kind of work together to find that golden nugget that will get the story to press and beyond. So you want as many eyeballs on it as you can. And we have to kind of weave that thread for the reporters. So facts matter. Visuals really matter. A lot of reporters won't even touch the story if there are no pictures. And that's where Mikey comes into with the video. Kind of a 360 prong approach if we have the time to do that, like we did recently with our Lake Delaware farm listing that came to market. That all helps. You want to present the full picture.
Tell us a little bit about that. We're going to get to that later, but now that you brought it up, tell us about that, because I thought, I'm an insider here, so I love everything we do, but that was really brilliant.
It was.
Really, really brilliant. It popped off the page to me the first minute I saw it.
The photography was incredible. First of all, it's a 200-plus-year-old farmstead that was in the same family for over 250 years, I think. So it's basically American aristocracy that has owned this, and the first time that they put it to market. And we knew about the listing well in advance, which gave us plenty of prep time, which was key. Because there was so much history with this home, it was hard to kind of whittle that down to something that made sense and was, easily digestible for press and for buyers and for our listing. So we kind of went through and dissected, the big names. We had, I think it was founded by a vice president owned it. There was judges, government entities, aristocrats, just all the big money from the Gilded Age. All of them went there, partied there, had
a lock
something to
of
do
George
with it.
Washington's
Yeah, so
hair
was there,
is living there right
which
now.
I actually didn't mention in the pitch because I wasn't sure if it was still on site. That was kind of like,
here's a situation with what do I leave out?
yeah, I was like,
so
I don't
much
know if
history
that's
here. What do I
creepy
leave
or
out?
cool, but I think it made the video. So
We couldn't find it though. We looked for it.
yeah, that's why I didn't want to get extra questions. That's the other thing. Like, I don't want to go there if I don't have to and make more trouble for myself. But it ended up working out really well. The Wall Street Journal picked it up, and immediately after running it, after they broke the story, then we had the New York Post calling, MSN picked it up, Yahoo, Cottages and Gardens, it went everywhere. It was like over 1 billion plus press impressions, which is crazy.
That
in a matter of
feat
days.
in itself. 1 billion, okay, with a B.
Yeah. And then it still continues to get press. So like, I think it might be.
I still look at it.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
Beautiful.
It's definitely amazing. It really is.
And to Mikey's credit, that video really helped to humanize it, which is another thing that helps in terms of getting press, is you want to have that human connection. And in this, you could tell that the agents really cared about the property, Nora and Hall. And so I'll let you speak about it. Yeah.
So tell us about how you figured out what that story, I mean, Ashley just laid it all out with, wow, this is really history in itself.
Right.
But how do you translate that into a video that's going to speak to me as the innocent person in the background looking at that saying, whoa, because it stood right, and I've been in this business a long time. That popped the minute I saw it. It was stunning.
There's a point in the video where Hall says that this is a really important property. And a lot of agents say that. A lot of owners think that about their own property.
Correct.
It's hard sometimes to really figure out if it's important for buyers. It might be important for the seller, but it's hard to sometimes figure out, is that story important for everyone else? This one, it was obvious from, like, I drove into the property. I don't know, it's maybe a 12-minute drive from the first gate to finding Hall and Nora there. You could feel it when you as you're driving through. It was spectacular. This was always going to be something that visually stood out just because of the scale, the history. There were so many. Every hallway you walked down, there was something else there that had a story to tell about it. This was just there was so much to choose from, and figuring out what would matter to people watching it was really tough. What we decided to do was we took Hall and Nora, we placed them in a very quiet spot on the property, and I just got them to talk. And we kind of just had a conversation between the two of them. I was part of the conversation. I cut my voice out of it, but it was a lot of just figuring out between them, why are we here today? And something that came in at the end, which was unexpected, was that they talk about that this is an important property for them to do together, and that they're enjoying being there together. And that's something that we didn't plan, but was the first thing I included in the edit. Because seeing two people enjoy their job, what makes it human, doesn't make it history. There's so much history to it and facts and interesting things. But anyone who's watching the video, they see it and they're like, these two people, they're enjoying being there together. And I think that's the emotional element that is sometimes hard to describe, but is always a challenge to get in there. And when you get it, you know it's there.
Talk a little bit about the why, though. You know, it's an interesting point, and I'm asking you about it because when I'm teaching continuing ed, in one of the classes, several classes, but in the one in particular, I always say, you know, if you need to brand yourself, and I'm going to ask Matt about this in a minute, you need to brand yourself to be better at what you do as a storyteller, okay? And as that magnet that people are going to come and want to attach themselves to you and whatever you do. I always start with, you have to first ask yourself who you are and what is your why, okay? Because if you don't know what your why, if you don't know who you are, then you got to go way, way back and start again. But you got to understand what your why is. Why am I doing this? Who do I intend to reach? Right. And what is the importance of it? Is that how you kind of look at the why in your business?
Well, we're taking a very emotional part of life, right? You're selling your home for a reason that is joyful, sad, everything, right? And you're attaching a dollar amount to that, right? You see the bedroom count, the bathroom count, and then there's a number. And you're taking something very emotional and you're putting a dollar amount on that. Mm-hmm. That's very hard to figure out the why within that, right? I'm there to help. I work in service, right? I'm there to help the person who's hired me to sell this home. And the reason for the video is sometimes to show off things that aren't so obvious in photographs or in a floor plan. It's sometimes there's a story in that home, maybe a celebrity or an artist or someone who's come through there that brings it integrity and value. The why is it's difficult to figure out because every agent hasn't necessarily figured out what their why is when I get there. And the first thing I do when I arrive on set at the apartment or the house is, why am I here? Why hasn't this home sold? What is the best version of the video we're going to make today? Because I can do so many different versions. There's versions where someone's talking. There's music. There's zero sound or just, sound effects. Figuring out why I'm there is the first thing I try and figure out. And sometimes the agent hasn't thought about it. And just that conversation, it allows them to switch on that part of their brain and go, okay, we have an opportunity here to do something different that hasn't been done before in the photographs, the floor plan, and let's explore that. And it could be as simple as just film the place the way that your eye sees it.
Sometimes simple.
I'm sometimes
best.
left alone.
Correct.
And sometimes the agent is, yesterday I did a shoot, the homeowner watched every frame. And he wanted to know why I was framing it it was frustrating at best, but it was important for them to be part of the process.
Absolutely.
And I let them do it.
Absolutely. I've watched your videos for years, Mikey. You really are a cut above most of
Thanks, Vince.
the videographers in this town. We're lucky to have you, honestly.
Thank you.
Matt, let me ask you, though, about recognition, okay? Whether it's awards, press, client testimonials, whatever, they can be powerful, right? We all love that. We all need that from time to time. How can agents authentically weave all of that into their own brand when they're trying to create a story, present a listing? Because as I said before, I tell students all the time, you have to have a brand, because if you don't have a brand, people are like, okay, 50,000 agents in this town, why you? Who cares? Vince, Matt, sure, I've worked with them before. Here's what I like about them. Let's do it. How do agents weave all of that into becoming good storytellers? I also say, I like to think sometimes I'm a writer as well, but I don't call myself a writer. I call myself a storyteller because I think telling a story, right, makes a lot more sense to people. It's like reading a book. Start, middle, and end. Okay?
I mean, I think your resume makes you more of someone you're going to pay attention to. So if you could validate yourself in the eyes of whoever's watching you in a way that's subtle, that doesn't feel like you're braggadocious, I think that will definitely create a more, again, we talked about attention span, you'll get a couple more seconds from that. And I think the best way to do it is you have to flip it. If you have $500 million in sales, or if you were just named the top agent in your office, you have to position it as, how is that a value to the person listening or watching? So what you would say is that with $500 million in sales, I can bring this to you, for you. I have a history of understanding every market and understanding your market, and be able to, not say, let me get back to you, but I have the answer for you in this moment. I think there's great value in that. So by positioning your awards and recognitions and sales records, by spinning it, by saying, how is that going to help you? I think there's going to be a value in positioning that on anything. And if you don't want to say it, you also can have, let's say it's an agent video biography, which Mikey has done many for us. I think sometimes you want to bring in someone who's a third party that says it on your behalf. Could be your sales director, could be someone that's done a bunch of deals with you. Bring them in, or you could bring in someone like we got in the background right here, Ray, who does a lot of our videos, and he's going to edit this, going to add all the graphics to it. Have the lower third say something under your name when you come in on screen. Say that, you're Mikey Pozarik, and you are the top videographer in New York City. I think like that you don't have to say it. It showed up on the screen upon your arrival.
Absolutely. All right, we have to take a break. We're going nowhere. We're coming right back. Talking New York Real Estate is just getting underway this morning here on the More Network. Don't go anywhere.
What do you really need to know about buying or selling a home? First, it's serious business, and it's complicated. There's a lot of money on the table, and emotion too. You need an agent who knows the ropes. So, whether you're buying or selling your home, work with professionals who have a mastery of the craft.
This beautiful set here at Studio 1873 is brought to you by the Everset. The Everset provides full-service staging and furniture rental solutions in the New York area. For more information, please visit us at staging.theeverset.com or email us at staging@theeverset.com to request a free proposal.
All right, everybody, we are back. So, Ashley, I'm going to ask you for newer agents based on what y'all have said so far. For newer agents without any kind of big awards, you know, they're trying to find their space. They're trying to find their why. They're trying to get into a very, very, very competitive business with many of us running all over the place, most of agents not knowing anything about anything. How can they still create a recognition story, though, that can resonate when they do find something? Mm-hmm. It's all, as I said before, it's all about them. Right. How do they do this?
So it's actually, it's really like a multi-pronged situation. I think it can't just be, you know, obviously if you don't have the resume yet or the listings yet, press isn't going to be your first priority.
Right.
So you're going to have to lean into the resources that we have at BHS, our marketing department, our designers, our social strategists, and really—
Top shelf, by the way.
Yes, really team up with them. I mean, social media, I cannot emphasize enough how valuable a tool that is now. When I started in this PR business, I don't want to say how many years ago, social media was not like—
go right ahead. Tell us coming. Just kidding.
Long enough time ago, we'll say. It was sort of like an afterthought. It was not the priority. But now I will say that, like, I mean, agents are getting business from it. They're getting leads from it. Not even like experienced ones, just people who are somewhat captivating or find their niche. They are getting clients. They are getting leads.
Didn't
they are
Jordan
selling.
Just close $20 million
Yes.
over
We
time.
just a piece of a press that just
And
one of our agents,
we got press that for him
absolutely.
because based on that in Inman. But another thing, like, agents will put up a listing on their Instagram, and let's say it's loosely tied to Only Murders in the Building or a big Netflix series like that.
Drops today.
Reporters look at that, and we've gotten a story about that. It wasn't an amazing over the top listing, but because it was in this building, it got press.
100%.
And you cannot, can't put a dollar value on that. That's kind of priceless, and it actually is free. So I would just say really lean into the resources that we have here, and we have many. Team up and figure out your best pathway forward. Talk it out and
Talk it out.
Yeah, talk it out.
Find the right avenue, because everybody wants to go down that super highway, but they may not be ready for that just yet.
Yes. I do want to add one thing to what Matt said, though, earlier when you're talking about the testimonials and your awards. When I write copy or help an agent write copy for their social about those types of accolades, I always end with thanking their clients, because they're the reason you are number one. They're the reasons you sold, $500 million worth of whatever. It's very important to thank the people who feed you. So that's my tip.
A simple thank you. Isn't that amazing? Wow. True. Mikey, you touched on a little bit of this before, but from your perspective, what makes a property video here in New York City stand out and feel like a story rather than just a walkthrough? I mean, because a lot of people like these virtual walkthroughs and blah, blah, whatever. I personally much prefer video because, as you all have said before, it really, if done right, tells a story.
Right.
So what is your opinion on that?
I mean, I think, I always try and start with learning a little bit about the property from the people who know more than me. So every property I shoot, I read the description if there's available on the way to the shoot, so it's fresh. And then I'm talking to the agent at the shoot, and if the owner is there, who sometimes, doesn't know whether they should be there or not, I always ask them questions. I mean, I ask the agent first, can I ask the owner some questions? And then I just learn as I'm shooting. I mean, at this point, I've been shooting, I shot for Halstead first and now BHS. I've been working with Matt for now, I want to say 10 years.
10 plus.
10
yeah.
plus years.
Maybe even more than that.
Yeah. I feel like visually I understand what needs to be done, but there are so many options within the home of where to place the camera. And knowing where to put it is usually the decisions I make are based on the conversations I have with the agent, with the owner,
So
the listing
important.
description.
So important.
Why hasn't this sold yet, right? That's one of the first things I ask. It's a hard question to ask because sometimes it brings up a conversation that, is usually to do with money, but I need to know why this hasn't been sold yet. It's been on the market for 85 days. You've had 6 showings. Why isn't anyone coming back? Let's figure out visually, maybe with a voice, maybe with visuals. Let's find out how I can bring value into this video. It could be something as simple as the curtains blowing and the view in the background. Maybe that's something that is going to make someone feel something.
Yeah.
And you cannot do that with a photograph. It just doesn't work that way. So, I think movement and light are kind of my 2 biggest assets. The things that separate video from photos and things that I can do that others can't. And I'm always looking for shadows. I mean, the agents are sick of me hearing me say dappled light, but that's my favorite thing, dappled light. I don't know.
But it works.
It works.
It works.
It works. And it forces someone who's watching to stop what they're doing and see something and connect with it in a way that you just can't do with a photograph.
I totally agree with that. But along those lines and what you just described, which I absolutely agree with, how do you kind of weave into the storytelling, the neighborhood, or the energy or the lifestyle around that apartment or around that neighborhood? I mean, downtown is different than midtown is different than uptown, whatever. Do you take any and all of that into consideration
Absolutely.
when you're planning on how am I going to shoot this for the right story?
Absolutely. I mean, no video is going to appeal to everyone. Right. That's kind of the fly-through, walk-through videos that are very, it's an educational piece, right? You're just getting an overwhelming amount of information. Mm-hmm. They serve a purpose, but I don't think you're ever going to really have an emotional connection with them. You're not going to say, I got to move to that neighborhood, right? The neighborhood, the music, the order of the shots, the detail shots, these vignettes that I love shooting, that's my tool bag of being able to actually figure out how someone's going to stop what they're doing in their day and just focus on this screen. Because a lot of people are watching on their phones, on their small computers. I'm competing with so many other things around in their day, and choosing what to shoot in a neighborhood is sometimes part of that, right? It's very hard to plan it. A lot of agents send me a list like, these are the things in the neighborhood. Well, I go to that. There's trash there. There's scaffolding. There's someone having a bad day on that street corner.
Someone not doing enough homework about a hood.
I'm 99% of the time in the neighborhood shots, I'm left alone. And I find that's a really efficient way of doing it.
I wanted to ask you about that because oftentimes when you bring an agent along, and I'm an agent, so no offense out there, we tend to get a little too whatever.
Yep.
You go there on your own. You figure out what's right. You've been doing this for many years. You understand. You also understand New York City. I would agree that is the best way to do it. You're going to find things that you want to weave into the ultimate story.
But it doesn't happen without a conversation with the broker first.
No, absolutely.
That's
100%.
very important.
Absolutely.
Because to learn from them, why hasn't this property, or why will it sell? Mm-hmm. And they might say, listen, this is just a great neighborhood for raising a family. Yeah. Great. Say no more.
Yeah.
I got you. And that lets me choose bakeries, parks, schools, all the things that they probably cannot say, I'm allowed to discover for myself. And they give me a general geography of what's around. And then I just go. I put on music. And I usually choose the music that I think is going to be somewhat similar to what is going to be in the final video. I mean, great example I just shot for Mike Lubin the other day. We're shooting at a great Bing and Bing building. I said, what kind of music? He said, jazz. I said, no, say no more. And I went for a walk and I listened to jazz. And that's it. And as I'm listening, I'm looking at visuals, and some things work, some things don't. You overshoot by 50%, and then the editing suite, you make some decisions.
Right. Yeah. Mike's got it going on. He's a great guy. Ashley, you know, when press comes to you and you put it out to us as agents, you know, to come to you, so, you know, it's something good about a listing or whatever. What are some of the common mistakes, though, that agents make when they're trying to tell a story or they're writing something or maybe sending it to you? What do you pick out that is not going to work over what's going to work? And how can we get better at that?
Well, first, I think it's not really in the writing of something, but it's more in the pitching has gotten a lot harder because the outlets have dwindled. The number of places I can go to,
isn't that something?
They're shrinking. So they're somewhat formulaic in what they want. For example, there are some columns that will only take listings that are owned by somebody famous or owned by somebody who will speak to press or owned by somebody who doesn't mind being named. And I think the biggest mistake that I've had is when agents do not check with their clients first about what their client is willing to do in terms of coming forward to press. So I might go way out and pitch this thing and it's going to be covered and da-da-da-da. And then the agent's like, oh, my client doesn't want to be named and they don't want to speak. But at that point, the photos have been sent. The client's name is out there. It's also in public record. I can't really walk that back without, really burning serious bridges, if at all. So I think the number one thing is to make sure that you and your client are aligned in what you want to put out to me, because once it goes out into the universe, that's kind of it, especially in this digital era. It just goes.
You talk a little bit about how things have changed, and I'm old enough in the business to remember the New York Times real estate section. I mean, we lived by that section. Every Saturday morning on my doorstep in my apartment building was the Sunday edition of the Times, but the real estate section was there. And that was the first thing I grabbed every Saturday morning before my own open houses the next day. And there were little box ads with not much information, but there were other stories about real estate in the city that were important. We were addicted. That's all changed. It's limited, as you said. Social media has taken over, I believe. Is it better or is it not better?
That depends. It's not better.
It's generational. I get it, but
it really is. It's not better for the journalists But I think it's. We are lucky that we work in an industry that really lends itself to social media because we're so visually based. Yeah. So you can provide a really good snippet of what something looks like in 30, 60 seconds, if not by just a photo and a really nice caption, and that'll work. So in some ways, I think it's really allowed agents to become their own curators and storytellers, which is good. But what it does lack, in terms of what I do, is getting that third layer of credibility by someone who is not telling the story themselves. It's getting someone else to come in and say what you want to say. So we have more options in some ways, but fewer in others, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. Matt, what are the best ways, the right way to leverage press awards, without feeling like it's being forced into a story or forced into an agent's profile? I mean, a lot of agents do well. A lot of agents are recognized for it in our company and a lot of other companies. But there's overkill sometimes. When you're advising agents who come to you about, hey, Matt, how can I do this? Or how should I do this? Or what is your professional opinion on the best way to get me out there and then get my property or properties out there? I mean, there are mistakes that are made, clearly, but what do you suggest to agents?
I think the best thing to always look at is you have to identify what is the core focus of what the end user wants to hear. And if you are an agent that doesn't have much business but comes from a background in finance, you talk a little bit about the analytical background that you could have and the network that you have.
Right.
Or if you're an interior designer that turned into a real estate agent, you bring the added value that you could bring to the table beyond just being a real estate agent. Or if you come from an acting background, you can just lean into it more and talk as much on camera as you possibly can. You want to lean into your strengths, you want to promote your strengths, and you want to do the things that maybe are beyond real estate and hit them. Everything that you've done to the point of you being a real estate agent is potentially something you could spin to being a successful real estate agent. So, I know that often when we do bio videos, or often when we, create social content, or often when we talk about podcasts, when we now have 18 of them, we always hit on, what is unique about you and how do we lean into that and how do we spin it? I mean, we're launching next week a podcast on two, agents in our Brooklyn offices that are comedians turned real estate agents, and they're going to bring in, guests, but they're going to then have the interview and then they're going to edit it and watch it over and provide funny commentary from their interview. So they're leaning into the fact that they are, a humorous, an environment around finding a home search, and you may lean into that a little bit more. So I think the play is always understand your personality of the home, understand the personality of the agent, and lean into it as much as possible, because at the end, what you're giving is authenticity when you do that. You're not trying to be someone else you're not. Spin what you are and make it the best you possibly can.
Yeah, because there's a lot of, as we talked about, there's a lot of competition out there, and the market has narrowed when it comes to the amount of publications that are out there. So, you've got to put your best foot forward, present your best case, right? And I always talk about branding, and Matt, you and I go way back 20 plus years on social media when it was first coming out, and this guy always was like spot right on with what was supposed to be in social media or not. And he used to counsel me all the time. No, you can't do that. Tell us a little bit about, because you were right and you still are, but people don't really understand the value of social media and what we see. I mean, we're addicted to these damn things. I mean, they're in our hands constantly.
Well, the average.
What can we do to make it better for all of us? Again, in line with telling a great story.
All right, so the average American is on social media on average 3 hours a day.
I thought it would be more than that. Okay,
and that's just on social media. They're on their phone a lot more.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that if they're on social media, that is an excessive amount of noise, right? So the noise means that you're funneling through thousands of pieces of content and absorbing maybe 1/20th of what you're putting out. So what you have to do is within the first 3 seconds, you have to say, this is something what can you get for $1 million in Manhattan? Or, a vice president once lived here. Like, hit him in the first 3 seconds, because you're going to be swiped off if you don't. So that's number one. Number two is you have to understand the medium that you're in. If you're in a more traditional medium like YouTube, Facebook, I would even say your Instagram feed, you probably have a little bit more attention span on those. You probably could go a little longer on it. You probably don't have to be, you could be a little slicker in your presentation. But then if you go into a platform like TikTok, you have to be a little bit more organic. It needs to feel a little bit more human, like almost you did it and you didn't have a production staff doing it. So you got to know your medium that you're in too. And most importantly, I think to finish it is that you have to identify and understand your audience. So if you are a professional account, you could get enough analytics in the back end to understand who the hell is following you. So you have to know who your audience is, just like Ashley knows who she's pitching to. She knows that Wall Street Journal wants more of a finance piece. Elle Decor wants more of an interior design piece. Rob Report wants something luxe. Like, you got to know who your audience is and feed them as much as possible as to what they think they would want to hear.
Mikey, when you see videos on social media, and believe me, and TikTok especially, I mean, the amount of videos is unbelievable, staggering, okay? And there's all different reasons why people are posting certain videos. But when you see real estate videos on social media, does that make you happy or does it not? And tell me why it may not make you happy.
So, great question. So, firstly, I don't have TikTok, never downloaded it. I never look at TikTok.
You're not missing anything.
That's what I've heard. I don't think that TikTok is the right platform for someone like myself. And that's why I feel like I would get lost in that space. And I put my time into other platforms.
Instagram.
I like Instagram. Mm-hmm. It's a longer form. I feel like what's produced there is more professional some of the time, maybe not all the time. And I just think that there's more time has been spent for the final output.
I would even go as far as saying that YouTube is your platform as well, because when you think about it, like YouTube has become like a TV platform. Like they want TV quality product.
Exactly.
So you are TV quality. So TikTok doesn't want TV quality.
I find personally,
they want the instant gratification.
I find
You're right.
that when someone says you have 9 seconds to tell this story, I find it very hard to do that. Yeah. I don't think I was
You
raised.
want the build up.
No.
Exactly. Right. I find it. I'm sure it works. Some people are very good at it. I don't think I'm that person. It's my background is in TV and film, and I studied all these things where you get time to tell a story and letting shots breathe a little bit. That it's not a 1 second, half a second thing. To see some movement, it takes time to create that. And so for me, at least, TikTok it just doesn't appeal. I don't know how I would produce for that platform. Where I do think I bring value are places where there is like YouTube, where you can actually tell a story over time. There's a few publications that do really good versions of it. And some of the videos are 12 minutes, some are 3. And they allow, these properties to just live. I mean, Netflix shows now, I don't know if you guys watch you turn it on, it's an hour and 12 minutes for one episode. Yeah. They're taking the time now to tell stories. It's funny, TV seems like it's longer, movies have gotten longer, social media has gotten shorter. And I think that it's created this sweet spot in the middle for people like myself to allow properties to just, and it's great because you have all these different platforms that agents can do themselves, right? They can do the TikTok, it doesn't cost them anything but some time, and they can show all the different stories of a property, of themselves, and have a place for each of them. Because what you would show on TikTok probably wouldn't be suitable for YouTube, Instagram, whatever, and surely wouldn't be suitable for the listings page. I prioritize selling the home and helping the agent sell the home as my number one.
Well, you have to know your audience, though, Vince. Correct. I mean, at the end of the day, he's creating product for someone who wants to buy a home. That's a more attentive audience than someone who's on social media who's just voyeuristic.
That's correct.
So, you're going to take...
that's the problem with it.
Yeah, you're going to take 2 minutes to watch his video if you're looking for a home. But are you going to watch 2 minutes of something when you just bought one 2 years ago and you're not in the market for one?
Right. All right, we've got to take a quick break. We're coming right back. Our last block, we're going to talk a little bit about recognition and reputation. Don't go anywhere.
Hi, I'm Dylan Pachulik, CEO of XL Real Property Management, New York's most trusted name in luxury property management since 2012. We specialize in managing individual apartments, townhouses, and rental buildings held by absentee owners. We maintain our properties with the highest standards of quality and service so that owners can choose a hassle-free approach to real estate investing. Rented or owner-occupied, we handle it all. For more information, contact us at xl-rpm.com.
Okay, everybody, we are back. So, Matt, let me ask you. So, where do you find or see the biggest opportunities for agents, to elevate their recognition based on everything we've all said? To elevate, is it social media? Is it branding yourself the best you could? Is it getting out there and networking? Is it trying to find the best listings that are out there and post them, like this upstate New York listing? What's the best way we can figure out, A, what our recognition ability is, and how do we get it out there? What is our reputation, and how does it work for us? Or how should it work for us?
Well, I mean, I think let's start at the surface level. I mean, if you have a story to tell, I think the best way to earn recognition is to go to earned media to start. I think earned media through Ashley is going to be a place that you can go that a third party said something that you didn't have to say yourself. That is immediate recognition from there. I think beyond that, I think your recognition comes from building trust. So being honest with people when you're talking to them. If you're talking about a state of a market and when you're on social media video content, don't just lean into the good. Talk about what needs to happen to maybe get back in the market. Be honest with them. Maybe now is not the time to buy. This is why. I think that recognition and reputation is built by people trusting your word. And I think we're in a world that trust is a commodity now. Like, it's very hard to trust something. You don't have many trusted news outlets. You don't have many trusted, I don't know if it's AI or if it's real. Like, there's so many things that you don't trust in this world.
Or don't know.
So I just think that if you want to talk about one thing that you want to do to build reputation, be honest with them, build trust, and they'll work with you forever.
And I think that's really important, because I think if an agent creates a reputation for themselves that's using their social media, using their biography video, all these things, the second they meet someone for the first time, if it's not authentic and the trust hasn't, they're going to know immediately if this person is telling the truth.
You, Mikey, hit the word on the nail on the head with the word authenticity.
Like, people know, they don't know how they know, but they know if someone is telling face to face, if that's that same person. And if you don't build a reputation on your visual platform that isn't authentic to themselves, someone's going to figure it out very quickly for you. Okay. And they have an opportunity in the comments to make that very clear.
Absolutely.
So you have to be very honest. I think Wheezy does an outstanding job in social. What she is in social is what you get in real life. And I think she is,
you know it.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I've known her for 23 years. She's quite the lady. I love her. Ashley, last question. So, in a city where everyone is competing for attention, what makes a story memorable? Now, look, in my teaching career, I talk about being memorable at the end of every class, because I start my day every day legitimately. Hey, how am I going to be memorable today? And I go through the day with that thought in my mind, okay? Some days I come home and I say, I was memorable. And some days I'm like, well, it was just a shitty day, sorry. But I like to know that I left my mark somewhere. How do you do this in an industry that's not forgiving, that's very difficult, that's very competitive? How can we be memorable every day?
Well, I think we've discussed it a little bit here, and I'll just go back to being authentic, and I'll use our CEO, Bess, as an example, who's brilliant at this. Yep. But she's, her words and her actions always match. So she believes something. She will write an op-ed about it. She will put it out, and it is exactly like what you see is what you get. And it really resonates with people. And it's that connection, I think, that at the end of the day is what's going to make you memorable. Your ability to connect with someone on a human level, emotionally, whether it's over something happy, angry, sad, but to just speak to your audience and also reciprocate, hear them back. And that will go a long way.
That's one lady who was very memorable. Okay, everybody, we are back with my final thoughts for this week. In New York City real estate, success isn't just about inventory or numbers or even timing. It's about the story that you tell and how you make the story resonate. Properties need narratives, agents need narratives, and recognition, whether it's media, awards, or client success stories, because it becomes the thread that ties it all together. Videographers bring those stories to life visually, while publicists amplify them to the right audience, ensuring recognition doesn't just sit on a shelf, but works actively to build trust and visibility. At the end of the day, storytelling and recognition are not side notes. They are central to standing out in one of the most competitive markets in the world. The question every agent should ask themselves is, am I letting my story and my recognition do the heavy lifting for me? And that's our broadcast for today. Thanks to my guests for being here on set with me. You can follow me on Facebook, on Threads, Instagram, LinkedIn, Blue Sky, Substack, or TikTok at Vince Rocco. John Maxwell says, a leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. And from all of us here at Talking New York Real Estate and the More Network, to all of you all around the globe, I am grateful. Thanks for spending a part of your day with us. Keep thinking the good thoughts, and I will see you next time. Goodbye, everybody.